Okay, guys, in this video, let's talk about Boeing stock. So this is a stock that makes up one of the stocks in the Dow 30, and this is a stock that has absolutely been crushed, not just necessarily due to the whole coronavirus. Was a lot of negativity baked into the stock because Boeing was responsible for the 737 MAX crisis, where these planes were kind of falling out of the air, out of the sky, and there was definitely an error with their black box or something like that. So Boeing has been it's been a pretty tough I would say last 12 months for Boeing in general. So if I just show you guys the stock chart here, you can see that Boeing stock was trading almost at around $400 just as early as September and was basically bouncing off of resistance. And then all of a sudden, things just got worse for Boeing, and the stock ended up going all the way down to $95. So I really should have made a video on Boeing when the stock was $95. That was just ridiculously oversold, but I was focused on a lot of other stocks that were kind of going down as well during the kind of the first crash from the end of the 11-year bull market. So, but anyway, I still think Boeing is a decent stock to look at right now, and one of you guys mentioned it in the comment section, so let's take a deeper dive into Boeing stock right now. So as you can see here, the stock had cratered all the way down to $100 as I mentioned, and then skyrocketed back up to 184, and now it's come back down to 125. So now we're sitting in at around $150. That is still more than 50% off its stock price just less than 2 months ago. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about whether I think Boeing stock is a good buy and whether you guys should think about taking a long-term position. So before I get more into the what I think about Boeing, let's just take a look at the company because maybe you aren't really familiar on what Boeing does. So if we head over to the company page, we can see that Boeing is the world's largest aerospace company and leading manufacturer of commercial jets, jetliners, defense, space, security systems, and service provider of aftermarket support. As America's biggest manufacturing exporter, the company supports airlines in U.S. and allied government customers in 150 countries. Boeing products and tailored services include commercial and military aircraft, satellites, weapons, electronic and defense systems, launch systems, advanced information and communication systems, and performance-based logistics training. So guys, Boeing is a very, very diversified company. So now I want to show you guys a little bit on what Boeing is doing in terms of revenue, and then we'll get into some of the changes that they made due to the coronavirus crisis, and then I'll give you guys what I think about the stock in the long term. So this was their latest quarterly release, so they're expected to report earnings in a few weeks. But as of last year, they did 76 billion and they suffered some losses. A lot of that was due to the Boeing 737 MAX crisis, and it just really slowed down operations like that. They had to freeze the operations, productions of those planes, and that really hurt their cash flow and caused a lot of losses. So as you can see here, their revenue was way down due to this crisis. So that's why that effect, that it was a Boeing 737 MAX. You guys can check that out. I don't want to talk too much about that right now because I want to keep this video in a timely manner and get right into the stock. But basically, that crisis was a short-term thing, and Boeing did everything they could do to fix that by taking those planes off the runway and things like that. But if you guys ever travel, if you travel internationally like I do, chances are that you're riding wherever you're going on a Boeing plane. Usually Boeing and Airbus, those are like the two biggest plane manufacturers in the world. So I'm pretty sure if you guys flown anywhere to Asia, South America, Europe, or even within the United States, you probably were on a Boeing plane. So as he said, in response to that whole situation, we recognize we have a lot of work to do. We are focused on returning the 737 MAX to service safely and restoring the long-standing trust that the Boeing brand represents with the flying public. We are committed to transparency, excellence in everything we do. Safety will underwrite every decision, every action, every step as we take as we move forward. Fortunately, the strength of overall Boeing portfolio of businesses provides the financial liquidity to follow a thorough and disciplined recovery process. So guys, for me, Boeing, that's just, companies go through times like this. They have errors and things like that. So now let's talk back to what's going on with the coronavirus crisis. And I also want to show you guys Boeing actually, before they suspended their dividend, they were paying about $1.2 billion a quarter in dividend payments. So that is about 4.8 billion, almost $5 billion a year in dividends, and one of the strong reasons why people liked holding the stock. So, how has Boeing responded to the coronavirus crisis? Well, they've done a couple of things, including the CEO and CEO Deb Calhoun and board chairman Larry Kellner will forego all pay until the end of the year. The company will suspend its dividend, and Boeing will extend its pause of any share repurchasing until further notice. The company previously suspended its stock buyback program in April of 2019. So it says Boeing is drawing on all of its resources to sustain operations, support its workforce and customers, and maintain supply chain continuity through the coronavirus crisis and for the long term. So, guys, that's what a lot of companies have done. They've stopped those dividend payments, which is one of the things that investors were relying on. And some of you, I know you maybe own this stock in your retirement portfolio. So if you're investing in stocks in your retirement portfolio, you don't definitely want to have all your money in one stock, because if you're relying on that income and they suspended their dividend, now you're going to have to find a different income source. So if you're owning Boeing portfolio, if you're owning Boeing stock for the dividend, try to diversify your dividend stock portfolio. Don't put all your eggs in one basket, so that doesn't affect you. So now, what do I think about the stock price of Boeing? Well, Boeing is definitely going through some challenging times, and now that a lot of people aren't really flying and just global spending has shut down, it just looks like Boeing is definitely going to probably see lower revenue in the fiscal year 2020. But I do think, obviously, once this situation passes, it is possible that Boeing brings back its dividend, and it's hard to ignore the previous stock price that was trading just a few months ago at almost 350 and even almost hit $400 a share if we go back in the stock chart even earlier. So for me, I think if you're patient with this, I think Boeing is a pretty strong buy. The company is a very, very strong brand, and people are definitely using their services to the world's largest aerospace company and the largest exporter in the United States. So if you're bullish on US exports, if you think that the United States will continue to do well into the future, in which it should, because American companies are a huge part of our global landscape, then I think Boeing is a buy. So I wish I had really bought shares of Boeing at around $100 or so. I just think that was just super, super, super too cheap. But right now, it's a buy for me. I want to add Boeing to my portfolio actually, but I would probably add this stock to my retirement portfolio because I'm anticipating that they bring back that dividend. But I think that this stock is definitely a good long-term hold. So if you're looking to trade this stock, I wouldn't recommend buying this if you're thinking to just buy it and resell it quickly, because a company of this size and that was so dependent on the dividend, this is definitely a longer term hold. So for me, guys, I like Boeing stock. It's a Dow component. I think it's like a solid company. Yeah, company's going to go through times, but as long as they're taking the measures to make changes, everything should be okay. So I hope I answered some questions about Boeing in this video, guys. I'm going to be making more updates on Boeing as we see how they perform in this weird time. Earnings season is coming up, so I'm going to be looking at Boeing earnings very, very closely, and I'm going to be looking at the price action of this stock. But I think that $146, if you guys were to open a long-term position or perhaps even buy partial shares, you can buy fractional shares through Robinhood, Stash Invest, Fidelity. Fractional shares meaning you don't have to buy a whole share. You can just put $5 or $10 in the stock, and then let's say you put $10 a week in 14 to 15 weeks, you will have a share of Boeing. So that's a different way to play this. But right now, with a potential stock market crash coming in the future and the fact that Boeing has cut its dividend, it definitely takes away a lot of that attractiveness. But anytime you can get an asset that is such a huge importance to the world, without Boeing, the entire aerospace industry could not function. That's how important clog they are. So if you are buying airline stocks, you're definitely interested in Boeing too. So I know a lot of you have been buying American Airlines, United Airlines, Delta Airlines. If you're bullish on these stocks and you think that those stocks are undervalued, then you could add Boeing as a nice addition to your portfolio. So perhaps if you were buying American Airlines stock or Delta, for example, you could tie those two together. And even though those companies cut their dividends, I expect things to get back to normal Q1 2021. Perhaps these companies bring these dividends back, and then you're going to be sitting in a pretty spot with these undervalued companies reintroducing their dividends. So I hope I answered this question, guys, about Boeing. If you guys want me to cover any other stocks, please let me know in the comment section. I do read and try to reply to each and every one of your comments because I really appreciate your time and appreciate your opinion. Okay, so that wraps things up, guys. Please like this video and subscribe for more content on Boeing and the airline industry in general, and more stocks that we could potentially trade during these crazy turbulent market times. So that's it for now, guys. Hope you enjoyed this video and take care.